Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we reach the end of our series, making a case for each Primarch being the greatest, with the Lord of Iron, Perturabo, Primarch of the Iron Warriors. A general spoiler warning to begin here, as today we will be referencing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned, and with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, I'll admit, when I first began to think of Perturabo being the greatest Primarch, I was a little stuck on where to begin. So much of his story feeling like a missed opportunity for him, Perturabo not realising just how valued he was. But then, of course, that's just it. Whether loyal or traitor, Perturabo was the guy that got things done. He was the Primarch relied on more than any other. Within the Great Crusade, it was Perturabo and the Iron Warriors who essentially fortified the Imperium, creating bastions and citadels across every sector of space they fought through, and beyond. And within those bastions across the fledgling Imperium, it was the Iron Warriors who were required to garrison them. Whereas all other legions could work as one, focus on the task before them, Perturabo had his legions scattered throughout the galaxy, because it was he and his sons who were looked to be the shield wall for the Emperor's empire. And all the while Perturabo was having to shore up that empire, he and the bulk of his legion were taking on the toughest of campaigns. Brutal wars of attrition that the Iron Warriors were looked to conquer. You really can argue the Imperium was built in large part on the back of Perturabo and his legion. At the very least, he shouldered a large amount of the burden. The grunt work. The work that is all taken for granted. That no one wants to do, and no one realises how important it actually is. The Great Crusade functioned thanks to Perturabo. And if you think that might change with his joining Horus's rebellion, well then, think again. If anything, the traitor cause was almost entirely dependent on the Lord of Iron. To start with, as I said, the Iron Warriors were already spread across huge portions of the galaxy, due to the Imperium having relied on them so heavily for that garrisoning. And so, right from the off, the Iron Warriors brought a ton of systems into Horus's control, demanding tithes from the local populations to fuel the War Master's war efforts. A contribution immediately beyond any other traitor legion. And so the Iron Warriors were a definitive scale tip of balance, whatever way they chose. In siding with Horus, they brought that vast power base and resources to him. But in leaving the Imperium, they also took away a huge part of the Imperium's defense, the network upon which it had depended so heavily. And that is a factor that doesn't get recognized enough in regards to Perturabo. How important his decision was with the heresy. Then, after Lorgar and Angron's Shadow Crusade against Guilliman pretty much failed to remove the threat of the Ultramarines Legion, it was to Perturabo that Horus turned, having him and his legion man a defensive front across that entire stretch of galaxy to hold Guilliman back. Again, it was all riding on Perturabo. When Horus needed the Primarchs reassembled for the assault on the Throne World, to whom did he turn? to bring in the uncontrollable demon Angron. Of course, the Hammer of Olympia once again. And not only did Perturabo bring Angron and the World Eaters in, my word, he put on a show doing it. In one of the greatest Primarch duels of the Heresy, Perturabo absolutely demolished Angron, well and truly showing why he is the Lord of Iron. It was an absolute masterclass. And speaking of masterclasses, it was of course Perturabo who the War Master turned once again to lead and command the Siege of Terra, the greatest battle to ever grace the galaxy. And despite the traitor forces being filled with demons, corruption left, right and centre, losing any sense of its disciplined cohesion, Perturabo did break down Rogol's defences wall by wall. It wasn't his fault Horus ran out of time. Horus wouldn't have even had a Siege of Terra if it wasn't for Perturabo. Lorgar and Angron failed to remove Guilliman from the board, even really do that much damage to the Ultramarines and Ultramar. The Ruinstorm failed to stop him, along with Sanguinius and El Johnson, and it was only down to Perturabo that they weren't all on Terra in the first place. And then he was asked to command Chaos, always an impossible task. Perturabo didn't fail at Terra. Chaos, Horus, failed him. He was the only Primarch who had a hope of breaking Rogol's defences on the throne world. So what more is there to really say? You want courage, balls. Well, this guy led his fleet into a literal black hole at the heart of the Eye of Terror. You want compassion. He slaved away for months to build a device for his brother Magnus, only to then destroy it in front of his brother's face, when told it was to peer into the warp. Because he cared for his brother. He didn't want him peering into the unknown, the treacherous place of the Immaterium. You want longevity, impact. How about 10,000 years later, when his planning has been instrumental in Abaddon's success with Cadia, the 13th Black Crusade, destabilising the whole of Segmentum Obscurus, unleashing 1,000 armies in a coordinated campaign, and he's even aided the Archithane Vashtor in assaulting the Dark Angel's Rock. So I mean, come on, we've got a Primarch who did the heavy lifting for the very formation of the Imperium, a Primarch who then was undoubtedly the turning piece for the traitor war effort, the one vital cog it couldn't have lived without, and a Primarch who, of all the traitors, has continued to have a big effect on the current galaxy. I mean, what more do we need? As ever with Perturabo, his efforts are never as appreciated as they should be. And when you really stop to look at the impact of the Hammer of Olympia, you begin to recognise this guy may just have been the greatest of them all. But as always everyone, what do you think? Was Perturabo the most instrumental Primarch? Was it his work that the Imperium relied upon? And the War Master? Was he the Primarch that simply got the job done? And are his efforts vastly underappreciated? When you stand back and look at just how important Perturabo was to both sides, is it really pretty clear that if you forget the grandstanding, the highlight moments, there's no way he isn't the greatest Primarch of all? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow, and if you enjoyed this particular vid then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.